On June 14th, Israeli officials stood before the press with steely confidence. Their message: Israel's air defense systems, Iron Dome and David's Sling, had once again neutralized the threat from Iran. But reality painted a far grimmer picture. Across Tel Aviv, residents reported tremors shaking buildings. Sirens blared endlessly through the night. In Haifa, video footage showed flames tearing through refinery zones. The coastal city of Ashdod was engulfed in a cloud of smoke rising from a demolished housing block. Hospitals scrambled to treat the injured. Schools were shuttered. Panic swept through major cities as thousands fled urban centers in anticipation of more attacks. What Israel called successful interception was, in truth, partial mitigation. Defense systems were overwhelmed by the sheer volume of drones and ballistic missiles descending in waves. Satellite imagery released 24 hours later confirmed over 20 separate impact zones inside Israeli territory. Civilian infrastructures, residential blocks, industrial sites, a hospital wing, suffered direct hits. While headlines abroad echoed Israeli claims of control, the ground told a different story. Tel Aviv, a symbol of resilience, was now a city of sirens and shadows. Families huddled in shelters, unable to sleep. Emergency supplies ran thin. Supermarkets were emptied. For a country long praised for its military preparedness, this was not a show of dominance, but vulnerability. The illusion of invincibility cracked, and for the first time in years, ordinary Israelis were asking, if this is victory, what does defeat look like? The spark that ignited the conflict? A bold Israeli airstrike on June 13th, targeting Iran's Natanz nuclear facility. Iran's retaliation was not just swift, it was strategic. Within 48 hours, Tehran launched over 100 precision-guided ballistic missiles and kamikaze drones toward key Israeli cities. But Iran didn't act alone. In Gaza, the militant group Hamas declared full allegiance to Iran. "This is no longer Iran's war alone," stated Abu Ubaida, spokesperson for the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam brigades. On June 14th, Hamas fired 2 rockets into southern Israel. Though they landed in open fields, the psychological damage was palpable. The blaring sirens reminded Israeli citizens of a truth they had ignored. Hamas had not been defeated. From the Arabian Peninsula, Yemen's Houthi rebels, aligned with Iran, entered the fray. In a televised statement from Sana'a, Abdul Malik al-Houthi confirmed the deployment of their latest hypersonic missile, the Palestine II, targeting civilian and military infrastructure in central Israel. According to Houthi claims, 1 missile struck the greater Tel Aviv region. Their message was clear: we stand with Iran, we stand with Gaza, and we will strike again. The scale and coordination of attacks stunned analysts. Israel now faced a multi-front assault, not just from Iran, but its regional proxies. Intelligence experts dubbed it the Axis activation, a synchronized military response challenging decades of Israeli strategic doctrine. This was no longer a skirmish. It was becoming a coalition war. And for Israel, the battlefield was expanding faster than its defenses could adapt. As the Middle East spiraled, many looked westward. Would the United States intervene? Former President Donald Trump broke his silence via Truth Social. "I urge every American still in Tehran, get out now." The post made waves, but Washington's official stance was cold and calculated. The United States will not participate in the conflict between Israel and Iran, announced the State Department. Embassies across the region were ordered to reaffirm this message. But behind diplomatic curtains, questions loomed. For decades, Israel has relied on U.S. military aid, over $3.8 billion annually in support. It is the largest cumulative recipient of American foreign military assistance. Every Iron Dome battery, every F-35, every smart bomb in Israel's arsenal bears a tag: Made in America. Even as the U.S. government stepped back publicly, its fingerprints were everywhere, from intelligence sharing to weapons systems. Critics argued that Washington's inaction was a performance. "We gave them the fire, one former Pentagon analyst remarked, and now we're pretending to be shocked when they use it. Moreover, some see the U.S. playing a more insidious role, not as a peacekeeper, but as a power maintaining controlled chaos. America doesn't start wars to win, a journalist in Virginia said. It starts them to manage outcomes. The administration's reluctance to step in reflects a deeper geopolitical calculus: support without accountability, leverage without visibility. But history has shown, when America claims neutrality in the Middle East, it often means something else. While Gaza and Yemen lit up with action, one name remained eerily quiet: Hezbollah. The powerful Lebanese militia, often described as Iran's most capable proxy, had yet to strike. But why? According to reports from Lebanese media, France and the United States pressured the Lebanese government into brokering a containment agreement with Hezbollah. The deal was simple: stay out or face internal retaliation. Lebanon's fragile economy and political gridlock made such a deal appealing. The Lebanese army even issued veiled threats to Hezbollah, warning of consequences if it acted without coordination. But Hezbollah isn't known for backing down. Historically, it has fought Israel to a standstill, most notably in the 2006 war. It possesses over 150,000 rockets and elite units trained in guerrilla warfare. Israeli military officials have long feared the northern front opening. Still, for now, Hezbollah bides its time. "We are watching and waiting," said one anonymous Hezbollah commander. But should the conflict intensify, or should Israel hit Beirut in a preemptive strike, the equation may change rapidly. Hezbollah is a card on the table, unplayed but not forgotten. As America distanced itself from this war, a haunting question emerges. When has the U.S. ever won a war like this? Since World War II, the U.S. military has intervened in over 20 major conflicts. And yet, only two, Grenada, 1983, and Panama, 1989, ended in unambiguous victory. Vietnam, a prolonged quagmire, ending in helicopter evacuations from rooftops. Afghanistan, a 20-year occupation culminating in Taliban resurgence. Iraq, the fall of Saddam led not to stability, but to sectarian chaos and the birth of ISIS. In the Middle East, America's legacy is one of destabilization, not liberation. Some argue that war was never meant to be won, but prolonged. We ignite conflict to justify presence. We sell weapons to maintain leverage, and we let others bleed, said a former CIA field officer anonymously. As tensions rise between Iran and Israel, America's hesitation may not be strategic restraint, but historical resignation. Perhaps the most piercing blow to Israel came not from Tehran, but Tel Aviv itself. In a rare and blistering interview, former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert denounced Netanyahu's leadership. Since October 7, 2023, he has failed completely. The suffering today is not caused by Iran or Hamas, but by Netanyahu himself. Olmert criticized Netanyahu's rejection of peace initiatives and his pivot to full-scale military retaliation. His policies, Olmert said, have cornered Israel into a war we cannot win and into moral disgrace we cannot escape. His comments sent shockwaves. Public trust in Netanyahu plummeted. Polls show over 60% disapprove of his crisis management. Within the Knesset, dissent brews. Journalists speak of censorship and threats. Young soldiers question the orders they receive. Peace protests are brewing in Haifa and Jerusalem. Israel, long seen as unified in crisis, now faces internal fractures. A civilian-military divide is forming. Faith in leadership is eroding. And in the eyes of many Israelis, the enemy is no longer just across the border. It sits in the highest seat of power. As missiles rain and cities darken, the war enters a new phase, one where answers give way to questions. Will Hezbollah join, tipping the war into full regional collapse? Can Israel withstand a prolonged multi-front assault? Will the U.S. stay out or use a single incident to justify stepping in? What happens if Iran is pushed too far and turns to unconventional weapons? In a Washington cafe, a retired military analyst stares at a muted TV footage looping of Tel Aviv in flames. He murmurs, "We keep making the same mistakes, maybe because they're profitable." In Haifa, a mother sits in a basement shelter, hugging her children. She scrolls past Netanyahu's speech and instead reposts a quote from her late father. "Truth is not what leaders say, it's what the people endure." There is no resolution yet, no victory, only escalating fire and deafening silence from those meant to protect. And so we end, not with clarity, but with this. What if this war doesn't end with surrender, but with silence, shame, and the slow collapse of trust?